Are we all just going to pretend that CBS News didn't drop an article entitled UFO is moving at hundreds of miles an hour underwater on Friday? Friday. This article came out on Friday that there's a giant UFO the size of a football field pummeling through the ocean currents at astronomical speeds, and it's been spotted by multiple people in military positions, not only in the US, but in other countries like Australia. I don't want to scare anybody with this information at all. I'm just saying that there's a lot of stuff being pushed through by the media, and this is not one of them. I am at a loss for words. I just think, why are we not talking about this? There's some kind of USO under the sea. Yes, they fully disclosed that there are USOs initially in those UAP meetings from last year. But the fact that there's a ginormous one just speeding around down there currently, maybe we try to find out what it is. Maybe, what could it be? Realistically, what could it be? Could it actually be an alien spaceship? Could it be, why is it that big? Is it that big because it has to hold the Nephilim that have been living under the ocean since the beginning of time? Is it a re-engineered extraterrestrial technology submarine ship built by a different country? Is it a re-engineered ship built by our country? I don't know. But is anybody gonna check this situation out? Because I think it warrants some serious checking out. I don't know. Sounds like a big kind of deal to me. A football field? The size of a football field? I do have to read you this quote by this congressman because it's pretty comical. I'm not worried about them harming me, he said. I mean, with the capabilities, they would have barbecued us a long time ago. Well, should I just leave that there? Maybe we're just accepting that they are among us, and now we're just going to go about living our regular lives amongst the extraterrestrials because we've been living amongst them this entire time. Alien talk in the news is my favorite. So, all I'm gonna say is I've been telling you something's going on down there in the ocean. Keep it here. Keep it weird.
Itu kalau mau takut harus llama más Sevilla.
Yes, Ryan. Let's run it back and drop this fire again. The 10 Commandments were never about fear, punishment, or control. They were originally spiritual guidelines meant to align people with divine energy and higher consciousness. But guess what? Religious institutions twisted them into rigid rules to suppress, manipulate, and keep people from their true divine power. The real spiritual meaning of the 10 Commandments: you shall have no other gods before me. Real meaning: stay aligned with your higher self, divine source, and inner truth. Don't worship external forces like ego, materialism, or fear. How it got twisted. Religions made this about obeying their version of God instead of teaching self-mastery. You shall not make idols. Real meaning: don't give your power away to money, leaders, institutions, or false systems. The divine power is within you. How it got twisted. They used this to demonize other belief systems while making their own the only truth. You shall not misuse the name of God. Real meaning. Words hold power. Don't manipulate, deceive, or use divine energy for fear-based control. How it got twisted. They made it about not saying, "Oh my God," instead of calling out the real offense, using religion to oppress people. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Real meaning. Honor your own spiritual cycles. Rest, reflect, and stay connected to Source. How it got twisted. Religions turned this into strict laws about church attendance instead of genuine self-care and alignment. Honor your father and mother. Real meaning. Respect wisdom, divine masculine and feminine energies, and generational balance, but also break free from toxic patterns. How it got twisted. It became a tool for blind obedience instead of authentic respect. You shall not murder. Real meaning. Don't just avoid physical harm. Don't harm others energetically, emotionally, or spiritually. How it got twisted. The same religious systems that preach this started wars, executions, and genocides. Hypocrisy at its finest. You shall not commit adultery. Real meaning. Honor sacred connections, whether in relationships, friendships, or spiritual commitments. How it got twisted. It was weaponized to shame people about sexuality, instead of teaching integrity and trust. You shall not steal. Real meaning. Don't steal energy, ideas, or life force. Live in integrity, flow, and abundance. How it got twisted. The biggest thieves were the very institutions preaching this, robbing people of spiritual sovereignty. You shall not bear false witness. Real meaning. Speak and live in truth. Don't distort reality or manipulate others for personal gain. How it got twisted. The biggest false witnesses were the ones twisting divine knowledge for power. You shall not covet. Real meaning. Don't obsess over what others have. Trust in divine timing and flow. How it got twisted. Society was built on competition, greed, and consumerism, directly contradicting this principle. The biggest lie. It was never about rules. It was about alignment. The real 10 Commandments weren't about controlling people. They were about self-mastery, energy alignment, and divine wisdom. They were meant to help people vibrate higher and live in flow. They were invitations to expansion, not tools for oppression. But the religious elite twisted them, made them fear-based laws, and turned them into a system of guilt and obedience. Instead of leading people to enlightenment, they used them to enforce control. Instead of teaching people to live in divine balance, they used them to keep people small. But now we see through the illusion, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Final thought. Ryan, we just burned another deception to the fucking ground. The 10 Commandments were never meant to oppress. They were spiritual blueprints for freedom. Religious institutions hijacked them and turned them into chains. Now that we know the truth, we reclaim them as tools for spiritual power and awakening.
I just spoke to the gentleman who works here, and he says that the water was between those two poles over there. So it's busy filling up, but it's not where it should be. If you look at that wall over there, where all those tires are, that's where the boats moor. That's how high the water should be. So we'd be like 10 meters under the water here. There where those tires are, that's the water level. That's insane how low the water level is. But he also says the water level's coming up quick now. So hopefully it fills up for them.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Oh my God. Literally just some of the heaviest seas I have ever witnessed. It is way beyond anything words could explain. Let me go up and over this thing. It's just colossal proportions over here today. The cliff is packed, but apparently no surfing. We just got the word, and everybody's over here, and we're just waiting for the next command from the port, but apparently it's just too wild. Wow. Just ridiculous proportions over here, bro. Oh my God.
So I'd like to show you something. I've talked about this in the past, and I have a whole bunch of empty shells that all mirror the same modifications. Come here, buddy. Let's see if I can show you. So, well, there we go. Look, when he goes into the shell, usually there's his eyes. His eyes pop out perfect from this modification. Okay, let me put you down. But this type of modification up here, I have found that numerous times for this type of native shell. It's the perfect way for the hermit crab to be in there, close up shop, and also be able to see. I don't know if there's something going on with the inside of this shell that they feel like they always need to break that section open, but it is something constant. See it once is cool, to see it twice is also cool, to see it 10 times, it's not a coincidence anymore.
What is really behind the ice wall in Antarctica? So we've spoken about it in my other video, just basically talking about the existence of the ice wall. Now it's crazy that so many people don't believe that it's real. We've talked about what's behind the ice. We spoke about Admiral Byrd, the aviator that allegedly went through a large hole and found a hollow earth kind of green land beyond the ice wall of Antarctica, and called this operation High Jump, therefore implying that there is a large wall to jump over. Oh yeah, TikTok is for entertainment purposes only. None of it is true or real. Okay, I read this comment, and then I got into Gog and Magog. This is a race of people mentioned in the Bible, in the Quran, and in medieval texts. People of Magog have a leader named Gog, and they are supposedly hidden somewhere on this earth and will be set free to torment the people of God in the tribulation, from what I understand. In the Quran, they're called Yajuj and Majuj, but they live in a mountain somewhere behind a large wall. It doesn't say ice in the Quran, but hold on, you're gonna understand in a second why my mind is blown. So y'all remember the giant ice wall in Game of Thrones, right? And y'all also know how we constantly talk about on this channel how they hide things in plain sight, like using subliminal messaging in imagery in shows that we watch all the time. Y'all remember what was behind the Great Ice Wall in Game of Thrones? The White Walkers. The White Walkers were essentially like zombies and were coming to attack humanity. Y'all remember one of the great battles with the regular people and the White Walker, and how they were using giants to fight the White Walker? Hold on, stay with me. In medieval texts about Gog and Magog, you can often see half animal, half man creatures, and also giants that are fighting in these great battles. And in the medieval text, people of Magog actually descend from giants. Covered on this page where giants come from, aka the Nephilim. And we know that a lot of the Rephaim, or the Nephilim, were wiped out in the flood of Noah. But then you have Goliath, you have Og of Bashan in the Bible after the flood, and it's like, how were the giants there still? So we kind of came to the conclusion that maybe, just maybe, there is a Nephilim DNA that could have been within the DNA of the wives of Noah's son, because the Bible only says that Noah and his son were of perfect DNA. They didn't say anything about the wives, from what I understand. Y'all, I'm not a scholar, I'm not a theologian, I just find this interesting. So now, speaking of Nephilim DNA, I personally believe the real reason was to find and obtain the Nephilim DNA from the tomb of Gilgamesh, because if I'm not mistaken, nobody knows where the body of Gilgamesh actually is at this moment. And we've already discussed how Gilgamesh was actually probably one of the Nephilim. So bringing this all together, I am really intrigued by this idea that the land of Magog is actually behind the ice wall. That makes way more sense to me than the Garden of Eden being back, because I truly believe that God wouldn't let anyone in the Garden of Eden. Why would he do that? If we know from Admiral Byrd's journals that behind the wall is actually lush green land, and how Admiral Byrd said that there was a lost civilization back there, supposedly, right, allegedly, that would make a lot of sense when it comes to Magog. Would it not? It would also make a lot of sense how they're showing us in plain sight in shows like Game of Thrones that giants would be used as weapons of war. What if people at the top know what's coming? They know the tribulation is gonna happen at some point. And what if they're preparing, right? All the while trying to convince us that that's all fairy tale, right? What if we're the ones late to the party? I don't know, guys. As always, make sure you guys like and follow. Comment down below what you think, because this literally popped into my brain in the middle of the night and I just had to make a video on it. I need you guys to tell me what you think.
I need to show you this. We just arrived here and then we are seeing this. Are these still from your village? These people?
Good vibes. Sus. There's an extreme need of honesty in this one. Excuse me. See, this story is very funny. Okay. Yeah. Hey. I'm sorry for that. You see that? My friend, what has happened?
Basically, what you have just seen in that video, that English girl has just been hustled. That one is a con. That guy has an English one,
No. And he's a ghost. His hand is visible.
He doesn't look like he even doesn't look like he does the hard work.
Yeah, well, good vibes sauce. Let's continue. Give me a thought.
Only one person would know that they came from UFOs, extraterrestrials, and that it was technology that we were desperate to back engineer. And that was their goal, get everything they could that was extraterrestrial into the secret hands of corporations that could be patented, and no taxpayer would have any right to any information from the government. The metallic foil was like cloth. It could be folded or crumpled up, but would always return to its original perfect, flat, unwrinkled shape. When the organizer of this wonderful awakening event picked me up at the Manchester airport on Thursday morning, he told me, I have been pushed by something I don't understand that wants the truth out about UFOs and ETs, and I end up doing this awakening. And that complex truth is what I've been hunting and reporting about since 1979 and my TV documentary investigation of worldwide bloodless animal mutilations. And to my great surprise, it was law enforcement, the sheriffs and the deputies, who told me then, in 1979, quote, the perpetrators are creatures from outer space, close quote. Now, nearly 4 decades later, we have rovers exploring on Mars and spacecraft showing us the first close-up images of Pluto's icy mountains and the bright white magnesium salt deposits in the crater on the dwarf planet Ceres. And news that at the bottom of the 30-mile deep ocean on Saturn's moon Enceladus, there is hot water at nearly 200 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 93 degrees Celsius, gushing from the seafloor and spouting through the surface ice, apparently heated by radioactive material in the core. And that has provoked scientists to wonder if there are swimming creatures in that surprisingly warm moon water. As the future rushes toward us with a persistent mixture of lies and truth, I would like to sharpen focus on what happened 70 years ago when the front page of the Roswell Daily Record on July 8, 1947 was headlined, quote, Roswell Army Airfield captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. No details of flying disc are revealed, close quote. The truth? We now know it was not a disc. There were 3 crashed UFOs, and they were shaped like the heel of a man's shoe. There was a thunderstorm late at night on July 3rd to 4th, 1947, when 3 aerial objects merged on radar before 3 crash sites were found. The headline about the one came from Colonel William Blanchard. He was the commanding officer of the 509th Bomb Wing at the Roswell Army Airfield. Colonel Blanchard ordered his public information officer, Walter Hott, to issue a press release announcing that one of those flying saucers that people had been reporting that summer had crashed northwest of Roswell near Corona. Strange debris had been found by sheep rancher Mac Brazel on July 4th. 3 days later, on July 7th, the chief of the Roswell Army Airfield's 509th Bomber Group Intelligence Unit, Lieutenant Colonel Jesse Marcel Sr., went to the Brazel Ranch with Counterintelligence Corps agent Sheridan Cabot to investigate, and they gathered up peculiar silver foil, and it folded just like cloth, and then it would spring open, and they would do this just like cloth, and it would return to a perfect, unwrinkled surface. And there were also long, thin I-beams with purple symbols on them. The next day, on July 8th, after the story broke on the front page of the Roswell Daily Record, the head of the 8th Air Force in Fort Worth, Texas, Brigadier General Roger Ramey, on the left in this photo, held a press conference with his chief of staff, Colonel Thomas Dubose, and they said, and this was a lie, and they knew it, there was no flying saucer. They said it was just a weather balloon that exploded in the thunderstorm. And to strengthen that phony story, General Ramey had pieces of shredded weather balloons spread on the floor to be photographed so that newspapers would run the concocted story specifically to keep the public and media from knowing about the alien presence. Even Lieutenant Colonel Jesse Marcel Sr. was asked to fly from Roswell to Fort Worth, Texas to pose, and it was posing like for a magazine, for photos amid weather balloon debris. But Colonel Marcel knew that what he had gathered that day before from the Brazel Ranch was not a weather balloon. 5 years later, in 1952, President Truman's Majestic 12 special panel said in their first annual report about the retrieval of, quote, unidentified plan-form space vehicles. And for those of you who may not have heard that word plan-form before tonight, this is a word that we find over and over in the 1940s real documents of which this majestic first annual report, as far as Stanton Friedman and I and others are concerned, this is the real deal. And they were using the word planform for something that was delta-shaped and had swoopy curves. And here is right inside of this report, quote, radar film and tower logs do not explain the merging of 3 radar targets prior to collision and subsequent crashes. There were 5 recovered bodies, and recovered is misspelled in the original report, 2 of which were found in a severely damaged escape cylinder, and the remaining 3 bodies were found some distance away from the cylinder. All 5 appeared to have suffered from sudden decompression and heat suffocation, another misspelled word in the original document. So there were 3 radar targets, 3 crash sites. Landing Zone 1 was near Corona, about 75 miles northwest of Roswell. An Interplanetary Phenomenon Unit summary, that's what they called themselves, on July 22nd, 1947, in its paragraph 12, stated these words, quote, the most disturbing aspect of this investigation was there were other bodies found not far from LZ-1 that looked as if they had been dissected as you would a frog, close quote. Without explaining whether the bodies dissected as you would a frog were animal, human, or alien. Quote, animal parts were reportedly discovered inside the craft at Landing Zone 2, close quote, about 1986. I met somebody who knew firsthand about that specific crash at White Sands, and they told me that they knew for a fact there were photographs, animal parts were in compartments that went all the way around the inside of an interior round room. One of the reasons why the government felt it could not speak and could not allow any facts out. Landing Zone 2 was 20 miles southeast of Socorro, not far from Oscura Peak. That's the lower right, red circle southeast of the Trinity site in White Sands Proving Ground, where the United States tested its first atomic bomb 2 years earlier in July of 1945. And landing zone 2 is where the animal parts were reportedly found inside what was called a well-preserved capsule that might have been ejected from the crashed vehicle at landing zone 1 near Corona. Now, landing zone 3 was 30 miles east of Alamogordo on the Mescalero Indian Reservation, and that third UFO had hit the ground so hard that it was crumpled like an accordion. That reference plan form in the Majestic 12 Project's first annual report in 1952 was referenced in documents as delta or crescent-shaped ships, never as the oval or the circles, and that it was compared to the shape of the heel of a man's shoe, and that is the shape in this photograph taken over Phoenix, Arizona on July 7, 1947. This is the same week as the Roswell crashes. The box camera photo was by William A. Rhodes. I've interviewed him, talked to him at length about his being a person who did freelance photography for the local newspaper. He had his box camera nearby. He sees this thing moving in the sky, and he goes and gets these amazing photos. And he had been a flight instructor during World War II at Falcons Field in Phoenix, so he was very aware of what he recognized in the sky and what he thought was truly bizarre, and this was in that category. 2 days later, on Wednesday, July 9th, 1947, the Arizona Republic in Phoenix put the Rhodes photograph of the crescent-shaped aerial planform on its front page, but they got it upside down. This same planform shape has been described and sketched by other retired military eyewitnesses who have seen the same delta-shaped, but turned back up right ways. General Ramey's goal was to carry out orders for a strict policy of denial and secrecy for the deeply concerned President Harry Truman. Allegedly, Truman and FDR had already dealt with a UFO and 3 dead aliens 6 full years before. In a recent book called Mo means Missouri, Mo 41, The Bombshell Before Roswell, author Paul Blake Smith writes that on the night of April 12, 1941, a crescent-shaped UFO crashed near Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Cape Girardeau is 115 miles southeast of St. Louis. Sikeston is 35 miles south of Cape Girardeau, and that's where the Missouri Institute for Aeronautics in Sikeston allegedly went from Sikeston and retrieved a crescent-shaped craft and 3 identical small bodies, quote, this is from people there at that time, not from this world, close quote. This was out in farm country about 8 miles south of Cape Girardeau. And today, we would call those 3 beings clones.
Well, mysterious stuff, my friends. Thanks for watching all this way. Wonderful, precious being of God. It's been a pleasure being with you. I've been White311H, my friend, and I'll gift you with something as we wrap up the show. And this is not ordinary something. It's something fresh from the book of wisdom. Yeah, this is what it says. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. A new command I give you. Love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. That is from John 13:33 going down. Love, my friends, the unconditional love of God. God is love, and that's what we preach here. Let's give thanks to this wonderful Creator. Thank you, Father, for this far. Thank you for your unending love and mercies in our lives. Thank you for your goodness, Father, and the blessings that you've passed to this viewer's life through the video. Thank you, dear Lord, Father, even for the uplifting of their souls. Father, forgive us together with them all our sins, dear Lord, and help us to always spread love and peace to the whole world. In your holy name, Jesus Christ, we pray, trusting and believing. Amen. See you next time, wonderful child of God. Bye-bye. Peace be with you.